What's up guys, Vulcan here, and today's video is going to prep you for the upcoming beta for New World. We're going to run through the four main categories for the game: character development, crafting, PvE, PvP, and factions. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, New World is an upcoming MMORPG from Amazon Games that's been in development for quite a while. It originally started off as a survival game, and now it's evolved into a more traditional MMO. The game itself revolves around various factions trying to claim these precious materials on this island named Aeternum, which are believed to give people immortality. So basically we're looking for the Fountain of Youth, and this island is just caught right in the middle of it. The closed beta is going to be opening on July 23rd for those who pre-order, and it's going to release a month later in August. So let's get this thing started with some character development. Now, creating a character in New World is straightforward. There are no classes to choose from, there are no decisions to make beforehand, it's all just create your character and then get started. Everything for your character is decided by what gear and weapons that you actually equip. So if you want to be a healer, then you can equip a life staff and some medium clothing. Boom, you're ready to heal. If you want to be a tank, then the sword and shield obviously is calling your name. And if you want to be a ranged DPS, then the musket and bow are going to be your go-to weapons. So altogether, we've seen 8 different weapon types to choose from. We've seen swords, shields, throwing axes, warhammers, muskets, bows, life staves, and destruction staves. So quite a few to choose from there, and each one comes with its own skill tree. These skill trees give passive and active abilities that are going to help define your build. So you can have up to 3 weapons equipped at a time. You can cycle through these guys. Each one has 3 skills that you can use for a total of 9 skills across all of your weapons. And I think it's going to be very important to learn how to weapon swap in order to be as effective as possible. We don't see it too often in the gameplay videos, but I'm foreseeing right now that if you want to deal heavy damage up close, then you're going to have to equip your Warhammer and just start smashing stuff. But if you become overwhelmed and need to retreat, then using a bow with some of those skills to help create some distance makes sense. Some leap back style abilities. So ultimately, it's going to come down to how you want to play and what situations you want to prepare for what weapons you have equipped and what skills that you take. So besides your weapons, you also have a variety of armor to choose from. Each has their own weight and affixes. And weight is going to be a major factor when gearing up your character. I mean, if you want to be nimble, kind of like a dive style character, get into combat, get out, ambush things, then wearing heavy armor isn't going to be the best choice, right? You want to use light armor because it allows you to move quickly, dodge quickly. And the same thing goes for a tank character. You don't want to wear light cloth armor, you want to wear heavy plate armor. It'll reduce your mobility, but give you much more protection. But it also reduces your elemental resistances. So there's a whole lot of things that kind of go into armor choice. So it's not just equipping what seems to be the highest gear score, what has the most green to equip. That's not going to be the way to do it. You're going to want to actually put some thought into equipping your character to be the type of playstyle you want to play. And developing your character also extends beyond just your equipped items. It also takes into account how you've spent your attribute points. So whenever you level up, you get these points to either spend on strength, dexterity, intelligence, focus, or constitution. Each one gives something specific towards your character. There's a little bit of overlap. So as an example, we have like dexterity. If you put a few points into dexterity, then it's going to increase your ranged weapons, but it will also benefit some agility-based weapons like swords. So strength, on the other hand, only increases melee weapon damage, including swords. So if you mix your dexterity and strength, then your sword damage will benefit from both to a certain extent. So that's something to keep in mind as well. There is a little bit of overlap. So next up, I want to talk about crafting. Now, crafting in New World is a massive part of the game. I'm talking massive. It's something that you're going to be doing from the start to the finish to end game throughout your entire career in New World. Crafting is going to be a constant. So if you're not somebody who likes a ton of crafting, then I would seriously take a step back, maybe get a friend who likes to do a lot of crafting if you want to play the game, or just kind of get used to it because it's there and it's something you're gonna have to do. I'm talking cooking, furnishing, engineering, armoring, weaponsmithing, to name a few. These are all crafting things. On top of that, you have refining traits, things like smelting and woodworking. Then you have gathering skills like harvesting, tracking, skinning. All of these things you're going to be doing constantly. Now, the nice thing is you're not going to have to go out of your way to do any of these things. What if you kill a wolf, you can skin it. If you run past a tree, you can chop it down and harvest it. So you're not going to have to go out of your way to do something specific unless you need a very specific piece of ore or a specific type of log, those type of things. Now, everything in crafting comes together to give your character everything they need to progress in the game. And you're going to be crafting a good chunk of your gear. A lot of gear will drop out in the world or be acquired through quests and faction events. So there's a lot of kind of nice places you can go and just say, hey, I'm going to do this quest. I'm going to get this piece of gear. But if you need to fill a specific slot, then crafting is your go-to. And there are a few choices that you're going to have to make when crafting that'll impact the performance of your item. If we take a sword, for instance, crafting just a base sword, very simple. Just throw the base materials in there, boom, here's some steel, here's some wood, that's it, bam, bam, done, we have a sword. But if you want a sword to have a jewel slot, then you can actually overload steel to the craft. You can add more steel than you actually need, and this will raise the chance for it to roll a jewel slot when it's crafted. You can also add in something called Azoth, which will increase your chances at the item crafting with bonus perks. So if you're really looking for a weapon that has an ignite perk, then maybe throwing some extra Azoth on there will then give you an extra chance at rolling an ignite perk. And if you really want a specific perk, let's say ignite again, then let's say you're out harvesting Dragon Glory for potions. You actually have a chance at getting something called a Dragon Glory stem, which can then be used to add a fire damage effect to your crafted weapons, aka ignite. So there are multiple ways to kind of get what you're looking for and really kind of guarantee a few things as a part of your craft. So if you go baseline, it's all RNG. You absolutely have a chance at just putting in the base materials to get a bonus perk, to get a jewel slot. All of those things can happen, but the chances are low. If you throw in extra steel, go for the jewel slot, Azoth, extra perks, something specific like a Dragon Glory stem gives you a specific effect. So I really like the way crafting's kind of built in this game and the way it's coming together. It's very deep, and I think it's going to be really, really fun for those people who like to do a lot of crafting. So moving into rarities in New World, there are multiple rarities when crafting gear, when looting gear, and having a higher skill level when crafting will actually help dictate how powerful items you can create. So a mastered smith can create weapons at any level and various rarities. Now in New World, they pretty much follow the traditional rarity chart, which is fantastic. I really, really like, I mean, this thing's been around forever, so we might as well just follow it. It makes it easier for people to get acclimated to your game. But you have common, uncommon, rare, epic, and then legendary. Now you can't craft legendaries, but you can craft epic, rare, common, and uncommon. So those are all things that are available to you. And each one has a higher range of perks that you can get when you find them. So for instance, epic has up to 3 perks, rare has 2, uncommon has 1, and common has 0. So the more rare the item is, the more bonus perks it has on it. All right, so let's move into PvE and PvP. So New World says this is a game built for just about anyone. And if you like PvE content, then you're going to have arenas, breaches, and corrupted invasions. If you like PvP, then you're going to have war and open world PvP. So let's start with PvE. So arenas are something that was recently revealed to be the top end content for players who want a tough challenge. These arenas are accessed with keys. These keys are found out in the world as random drops. So you'll have a key that drops that says like Spriggan key. And then that key will actually lead you to an arena tucked away in the world. And it's going to offer you a gladiator style battle with a single boss creature. Now, they mentioned multiple times these boss creatures are going to be very difficult. So you're going to need to bring a group of players with you that fill the tank, DPS, and healer roles if you want to have the best chance possible at clearing the content. And like I said, the example they showed off was a Spriggan. And they said the Spriggan is a rounded enemy, decent range of skills. It has some long range attacks, medium, short range type stuff. And they also mentioned there are other arenas in the game, but we have to go out and find those ourselves. If you can manage to kill the Spriggan, then you're going to get some good gear, a high chance at legendaries, and some top-end crafting materials. If you wipe, then your entire party is removed from the arena, your key is wasted, and you get nothing. You have to go find a new key and then go back and try again. So this has got some mixed reception. I really like it. I like the high risk, high reward type stuff. So I think I'll be doing this quite a bit, but I do want to hear from you guys. Now, corrupted breaches are vastly different than arenas. These occur out in the world, and they function kind of like rifts from the MMO Rift, and they're these events that will happen across the continent. And they'll start spawning corrupted enemies. You have to go and eliminate them and close this breach. If you don't, then it actually continues to grow. More and more powerful creatures come out of it. It makes life harder for those trying to gather resources or travel, and it can eventually take up a large portion of your territory. So you get a party together and you go basically breach hunting. And these breaches will vary in difficulty. Some are going to be protected by some insanely powerful creatures, while some smaller ones might just be full of minions with a single boss. But closing them is the same, so you don't have to do any sort of different laundry list of items to close harder ones versus easier ones. All you have to do is kill the Acolyte of Corruption, which is a tough boss, and then loot this staff, which is used to seal it. If you manage to seal the breach, then you're going to find crafting materials and loot that can't be found anywhere else in the game. So doing these is always beneficial to anyone. If you all wipe and you die, then you die and just run back and you can restart it. Now, lastly are the Corrupted Invasions. These are actually instance-based sieges that put players against a horde of corrupted enemies who are trying to take over a settlement or a territory. Now, this is for level 50 and up players only, and will have 50 players on a team. Now, the whole thing begins by giving all players 50 battle tokens. These battle tokens are spent at a battle vendor there in the actual fighting ground itself, and they're for things like potions, traps, defensive items, anything to help empower you right out of the gate. Now, the horde you're up against will be made up of various creatures. You're going to have grunts, raiders, snipers, bombers, brutes, a variety of bosses, and all of them will add something to empower the horde itself. So bosses are going to give buffs and debuffs. Bombers are going to blow up structures to do some pretty significant damage to your gates. Snipers are going to be consistently picking off players through the match, and it goes on and on and on. Raiders are the ones you're going to have to deal with most of the time. Now, if the Corrupted breaches your gates and captures your flag, also known as your claim, then you lose and your territory gets downgraded. But if you hold out for the entire time limit, then you win. And these are long matches, so I think 15 to 20 minutes per match. So, kind of buckle up. Now, win or lose, you're going to gain XP and currency and loot. So you're always going to get something out of it. Now, flipping over to PvP in New World, this is very straightforward. And what I just explained for Corrupted Invasions, it's basically the exact same thing. Just replace the horde of creatures and put in 50 players. This is called War, and like I said, it functions the same way. You have 50 players defending, 50 players attacking. They have to capture 3 rally points outside of the gates. Once all 3 of those are captured, they can start storming the gates. If they break through the gates and capture the flag, then you lose. That territory is downgraded and actually captured by that faction. And then you have to weaken that faction territory again before you can declare war and go back to trying to capture it. So it's a pretty back and forth process, but it's extremely fun. What I saw in IGN's gameplay looked pretty good. I mean, it's just like a big battleground. So for those people who really like PvP and battlegrounds, maybe that's something you'll really enjoy. Then you also have open world PvP, which is opt-in only and is pretty self-explanatory. You opt into PvP, you go out into the open world, and if you see another player from an opposing faction, you can fight them and kill them, or they kill you. It's not full loot or anything like that. They just die, and that's it. I don't know if you get marks or anything like that. So from a PvP standpoint, I do think these modes will help give players who have that itch enough to do, but honestly, I want to hear from you guys. Do you think they should have something like a PvP arena, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, 5v5, or do you think these kind of help fit that bill a little bit? Moving into our last category here, I want to talk about factions and how these play into the game. So at level 10, you get to choose a faction. Now this is important because your faction is a permanent choice, right? And this is a big one because it helps dictate basically the rest of the game that you're going to be playing. So you have 3 choices. You have the Marauders, the Syndicate, and the Covenant. Now these also dictate your guild choices. These are called companies. So you cannot be in a company in a different faction. If you want to play with your friends, make sure you choose the same faction, or else you will not see the same company and you'll end up being on opposite ends of the game. This also helps create a natural separation for faction wars. And like I mentioned in the PvP section, players in opposing factions will be free to engage in PvP with other players. So you're always in a your faction versus 2 other factions since there's 3. It's a triangle. Factions are also going to be your headquarters for PvE and PvP missions. Now, PvE missions range from defeating creatures, crafting supplies, stockpiling resources, and completing one of these gives you some faction currency that you can buy equipment and items from your faction, and they're themed. So you want to really look like a specific faction, then go with that faction and buy all of the theme stuff. Now, PvP missions are things like tactical information, delivering messages, or infiltrating another territory, another faction territory. You have to turn on PvP flag, and if you die, you fail. If you turn off your PvP flag, you fail, and you'll have to get another mission and try it again. If you complete it, you get currency and will generate influence for your faction, which helps grow your territory and unlock new perks for that territory. Things like experience boosts, taxation, all that type of stuff. So guys, that wraps up this video, and honestly, there is a lot in those just 4 categories, but I think those 4 are the most important ones, right? It's character development, crafting, and activities you're going to be engaging in most of the time. But I do want to hear what you guys think about New World so far. We're a few weeks out from beta. I mean, hopefully the NDA will be gone so we can start seeing content, but I want to know from you, does this sound interesting? Is this something you're going to be picking up and playing, or do you think Amazon is missing the mark so far in this MMO from what they've revealed? I want to hear from you guys, but as always, thank you so much for the support. This has been Vulcan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.